everyone, so today I am here to do my November reading wrap up. So the month of November was like an okay reading month. It wasn't like amazing. I only read 10 books, which for me that's just personally not a ton of books, but I read a lot of big books because I did Tome Topple this month, which I have 3 different vlogs for on my channel if you guys want to check those out. But I read 10 books and this month was actually really good in quality. If people are new here, you're gonna see like a lot of 4-star books in this, and trust me, that's not normal. I am a very critical reader. This month I just read a lot of amazing books, so if you're here being like, oh my gosh, this girl is so nice and gives everything like 4 stars, I don't. But since it's only a couple of books this month, I'm gonna do them in chronological order of when I read them rather than like splitting them up into different categories like I normally do. So without further ado, let's just get on into it. Okay, so the first book I finished this month I read it back to back for 2 different classes, and that was Interpreter Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri. I really enjoyed this. I give it a 4-star. It's a good little collection of short stories. Everyone knows this book. I feel like I don't have to go into too much detail about it, but I'm using it for an essay, so I really enjoyed it. The next book I finished was also for class, and that is Night Sky with Exit Wounds by Ocean Vuong, which I actually really enjoyed. I am not a poetry person, like, at all, but I had quite a few lines that I really enjoyed in this book, and I actually just ended up really enjoying it. And like I mentioned in my TBR video, Ocean Vuong is actually a professor at my university, and he came and talked to us about his poetry collection, which was really cool. So I actually ended up really enjoying this, and I think I gave it a 4 or 4.25 out of 5 stars, which I usually give poetry like 2 stars, so this was a pretty dang good collection if you guys like poetry. It's very dark, and it's basically, if you guys don't know who Ocean Vuong is, he is a transgender Asian American, so it's a very unique point of view to be writing from. So it was definitely darker, but it was really good. Okay, so the next book I read was a book for myself for pleasure, and that is Girls of Fire, Paper and Fire by Natasha. I can't figure out how to say this. Is it Nagan or is it like Wen, and it's pronounced Wan? This is a Asian-inspired fantasy YA novel about girls who are like, so there's like castes in this world where paper is the lowest and it means you're human, and then all the way up to moon, which means like you're a full demon, and there is a demon king and all of this, and basically this main character girl gets picked as an extra paper girl who are basically sex slaves to the king, and because of she has like really beautiful golden eyes. This is an LGBT romance story fantasy novel. Lots of different things happen, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very quick little read, and it was definitely an interesting start to a series, but this first book was really good. I think I gave it a 4-star. Yeah, I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read was a graphic novel, and that is The Best We Could Do by T. Bui, I believe. I have some notes and stuff from it. This graphic novel is gorgeous, and it is a graphic memoir, and it was very powerful. I read this for my Asian American literature class, and I really enjoyed it. It's a bigger graphic novel, but it's definitely worth it. And this one I gave a 4.25 out of 5 stars. Again, like I said, I don't normally give books this high ratings. This was just a really good quality reading month. But yes, if you enjoy graphic novels or graphic memoirs or memoirs, I really highly recommend this. It was very powerful, and the art style is beautiful. Okay, and then quite a few of these books I read for Tome Topple, but I also read other books in between books, so you know. The next book I read was Beartan by Frederick Bachman, which I really enjoyed. If you guys have been keeping up with my channel, you know I read this and literally went and picked up 2 more of his books, and I'm now reading another one of his books, and I really enjoyed this. I give like a 4.25, maybe 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. This is a literary fiction novel about a town where hockey is like really big, and basically the hockey players are celebrities, especially because during this book they're in like the finals for this big tournament, where that tournament could change the entire town because it could actually bring money in from the outside and all of that. And it's just a lot about living in a small, very close-knit community, and when kind of bad things happen to such a small community where everyone knows each other and everyone wants to assume the best of each other. Because this book, the plot kind of comes from a sexual assault or rape that happens to one of the girls of the town, and a hockey player is the person who is being accused of this rape. Again, I really enjoyed this. I come from a very small hockey town, so I really enjoyed this, and it was just very powerful. So I highly recommend this, especially if you like literary fiction. And then I did a reread and buddy read with my best friend Haley. You guys should all go subscribe to her. But we reread Twilight together and annotated, and this was so fun. This was such a fun reread to do. It had been quite a while since I reread Twilight. I love Twilight. It is one of my favorite books, one of my favorite series of all time, and this reread was so much fun, especially annotating it. And just rereading this, I feel like I've gotten influenced by the movies too much, because this reread, I was just like, Bella and Edward are so sassy and sarcastic, especially together, and the movies just totally don't capture that at all, and it was really fun rereading it to see them interacting for real together. But obviously this was a 5 out of 5 star reread for me. And then I read a book for school and I hated it, and that is This Is How You Lose Her by Junot Diaz. I gave this a generous 2 star, honestly probably more of a 1 star. This is a collection of kind of interweaving short stories about literally just cheating and sex and misogyny and hating women. Like, it's one of those things I'm like, yeah, you could totally argue like it's about toxic masculinity and like how this main character Junior feels like he has to treat women like this, but like it's just misogynistic as shit. And I hear really bad things about Junot Diaz's other books that I hadn't heard of before I said that about this book, and apparently he's really gross in like all of his books. So I was not a fan of this at all. I thought it was disgusting and I hated it. So 1 to 2 stars. Honestly, no, let's just say 1 star. It's a bad book. And the next book I finished was another Tome Toppa read, and it was actually another book I really didn't like, and that is The Phoenix Empress by K. Arsenal Rivera. I read the first book of this, The Tiger's Daughter, back in the summertime, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it like a 4 or 4.5 out of 5 star. This was such a letdown. I obviously can't go into too much detail because it is a sequel, but I gave it a 2 out of 5 star. It was just so long and boring and dull, and I just didn't care anymore. I like the characters, but even by the end of this, I wasn't like, I just didn't care anymore. I don't care. And I'm not going to continue in the series, and I just say read The Tiger's Daughter and be satisfied with the ending of that. Like, don't go on. It just, I don't know, in my personal opinion, it wasn't worth it. And then the next book I finished was a huge anticipated release of mine for this year, and I'm sure a lot of people's anticipated release for this year, and that was Bridge of Clay by Marcus Zusak. I've actually seen a ton of people DNF this book recently, and I keep telling people, if you like The Book Thief, that's awesome, but if you read The Messenger by Marcus Zusak and didn't like it, you're gonna hate this book. Like, you're not gonna like it. I think Marcus Zusak did himself dirty by having The Book Thief get as huge as it was, because now every single book he writes afterwards is going to not be loved as much, because you can't just redo the same book over and over and over. And this book was awesome, but I don't think a lot of people on like BookTube are going to really like it. It is a very weird book, and it takes a lot of like thinking, I guess. It's just like, it's one of those books that I was confused for like 80% of this book, but I was okay with being confused. It was kind of like a Murakami experience, actually. And I ended up really liking it. I gave it a 4.25 out of 5 stars, maybe a 4.5 out of 5 stars. But yeah, no, this book, the writing is definitely interesting. We kind of switch back and forth in between perspectives and timelines and all different things. And, oh, by the way, if I didn't say, I got a signed copy of that. And I also listened to the audiobook, which was narrated by Marcus Zusak, and I thought it was great. But it's just a lot of different things happening at once that it doesn't really tell you when things are switching. You just kind of have to figure it out, because on one hand we follow this boy named Clay, who we follow this family, and one of the things that we follow is I think he's the youngest, or one of the younger boys, Clay, who is literally building a bridge. He's literally building a bridge. And then we also follow their mother in the past, who is a person who escapes from her country, I think it was Russia, to America, and how she met their father, and then also about their father being a murderer, and then also just like all of these different things, and then about horse racing. It's kind of a lot to keep up with, I'm not gonna lie, and I don't think a lot of people are going to enjoy this book, but I thought it was awesome, and I gave it a 4.25 out of 5 stars. If you like literary fiction, you're gonna like this. If you read The Messenger, I think you're gonna like this. And then for class, I did another reread of a book that I actually really love, and that is Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. This we weren't planning on reading. We were in class one day and my professor was like, what did you guys wish we had done in this class? And I was like, I really wish we had done Beckett because I really liked Waiting for Godot when I had done it with him the year before. And he was like, okay guys, read Waiting for Godot for Thursday, we're gonna do Beckett. And I was like, yes. So I really quickly reread this book. It is one of my favorite books of all time, and it is definitely my favorite play, which is saying a lot because I love Shakespeare with my whole heart. Like, this and Titus Andronicus are basically like level with each other. But yeah, this is a, what's it called? A tragic comedy. And it's so hard to explain. It's about Vladimir and Estragon, and they're waiting for Godot, but like nothing really happens, and mindlessness and repetition, and oh, it's so good. And I noticed so many new things upon this reread, so really enjoyed this. 5 out of 5 stars. And then I finished another big book for Tome Topple, which put me at 5 books for Tome Topple, which was awesome. And I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is another giant book, and it is a World War II book that follows 2 sisters who do 2 very different things during the war. And it's I don't want to go into a ton of detail because I didn't know that much going into this book besides it being about 2 sisters, but I really enjoyed that, which I don't like going into books blind, as people say, but I thought it was really great, and I don't want to give too much away. So I'd say if you like literary fiction, historical fiction, World War II books, check it out. I give this a like 4.25, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Again, don't usually give this many great star ratings to books. And then the last book I finished was another book for a class, and that was Southland by Nina Revoyer. This is a LGBT mystery novel, I guess, Asian American mystery novel. We follow a young Japanese American lesbian who is trying to figure out this mystery from like 1940s or something that has to do with her grandfather. I obviously tabbed it all up. I really enjoyed the representation, really enjoyed our main character, but it was okay. I give it like a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I found the mystery kind of boring, but the characters were really great. So if you want like a really cool queer mystery book, it's a good one. I think this honestly might have been my quickest wrap up I've done in like a year, but these are the 10 books I read this month. I hope you guys all enjoyed this wrap up, and definitely tell me down below if you have read any of these books and your thoughts on them, as well as if I have convinced you to read any of these, especially with my glowing 4-star ratings for almost every book. Anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed this wrap up, and I love you all, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye!